It's a Sunday morning like any other in Australia. The kookaburras are laughing, and people are riding by on their kangaroos. Your Uncle Bazza has just got back from church, swats away a few flies, and collapses into the recliner. He picks up the remote and turns the TV on. What your Uncle Bazza changes the channel to is quite possibly the cause of one of the biggest problems Australia and the rest of the world is facing today. He's watching Sky News. To viewers not from Australia, you might not have heard of Sky News. They stylise themselves as an Australian news channel, and of course you'd assume that's what it was. It has news in the name. What else could it possibly be? Well, I can best explain that to you from my living room. I took a walk while writing this script, and like Uncle Bazza, I sat on the sofa and switched on the dedicated Sky News channel. This was the lineup. This isn't through Foxtel or pay TV, by the way. This is free to air. Out of these 10 shows, maybe the afternoon agenda and the US report can be considered actual news. The other 8 are all segments hosted by conservative commentators who solely provide their opinion. Let's analyze one of those closer. Paul Murray Live. This show is described as an alternative look at the news of the day. In one of these opinionated talk shows to a live audience, podcast and TV show, Paul Murray openly told Australians to vote for the Conservative Party in the upcoming election. He referred to Anthony Albanese, the head of the Labour Party and our current Prime Minister, as Albo. He said, and I quote, "Your job when it comes to talking to family and all the rest of it is we've got to build a buffer against the woke." This is clearly not news. This is blatant opinion and misinformation. Yet, 80% of what is aired on Sky News is like this. And, perhaps the most worrying statistic of all, is that more than 1/3 of the Australian population consumes this content. This is because Sky News isn't just confined to the TV screen. The network has increased its lead as the most engaging Australian TV news page on social media with 1.3 billion online video views. It posts constantly to social media such as YouTube and Facebook, as well as its online page where it sees ever-increasing levels of consumption. You might be thinking to yourself, this sounds a lot like Fox News, and you'd be correct. Who do we have to thank for the introduction of Sky News to Australia? None other than the highly esteemed Murdoch family. Sky News isn't its own small entity. It's a business run by News Corporation. News Corporation is owned by Rupert Murdoch & Co., the same billionaire and family that owns Fox News and Foxtel. But, unfortunately, it doesn't stop there. As if one wasn't enough for Australian viewers, News Corp also owns and operates The Australian, The Herald Sun, The Daily Telegraph, and news.com.au amongst others. These newspapers and sites are all very popular throughout Australia. I know it's frustrating, but I'm sorry to say I'm going to have to hit you with more harrowing statistics. 70% of Australian newspapers are owned by NewsCorp, and 7 out of the top 10 weekend newspapers ranked by print readership are owned by NewsCorp as well. 57% of the entire news market in Australia is owned and operated by this one American billionaire. Australia's newspaper ownership is among the most concentrated in the world, and many people just don't realise it. Uncle Bazza might think he's sourcing information reliably by citing multiple outlets. In reality, he's most likely cross-referencing the same opinions presented under different names, the opinions of the mega-wealthy. In Australia, our politicians are now frightened to stand up against this Murdoch media beast. This is happening all over the world. We see the consequences of Fox News in America, and we've seen its impact on democracy. Media monopolies are dangerous, no matter what side of the political compass they're on. Freedom of the press and news outlets with varying opinions and thought is a basis on which our democracy is formed. I took a look on the NewsCorp website and saw them preach about their commitment to cultivating diversity and broadening the opportunity for inclusion, and their talk of a comprehensive environmental sustainability program. I can't help but laugh. Sky News and the Murdoch media in general is clearly just a mouthpiece for right-wing rhetoric and misinformation. To them, cultivating diversity is shaming transgender individuals. To them, sustaining the environment is claiming that climate change doesn't exist. Sky News primarily acts as a news source for older Australians. The age of the average viewer is 46. However, this is changing. Thanks to the widening of its dissemination over social media, they are beginning to build a strong, younger support base. This is dangerous. Media monopolies are a very real, very scary reality that we as a population must face together. People get into the trap of thinking the content they're consuming from Sky News is news when it's mostly opinion. The longer we let this stand, the longer it will erode not only Australian democracy, but the democracy of all nations around the world. So, when you see your Uncle Bazza watching Sky News or Fox News, or whatever your variation might be, try have a subtle word with them. Don't be forceful, that'll only make them defensive, but show them some other independent sources. You're there to help, not to shame. Try rescue them from the rabbit hole of right-wing rhetoric and misinformation, and whatever you do, don't fall down it yourself.